Hello. I am actually not a frog, but I am someone who's been dealt a bad hand in the past, along with existential dread, and wants to reveal to you my secret method to finding purpose and meaning in life. Yay! Okay. I really don't like recording myself speaking, by the way, so that's why you're getting the frog. Back to the video. I'll start by saying this video might be a bit heavy because I've gone through some heavy stuff, but I'll try and mention that stuff at a minimum. If you think you'll be triggered, this is your chance to exit, but I do think it's worth me saying the following, at least this directly. Continuing in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, the heavy stuff I've gone through made me dissociate from myself for years, messed up my emotions for years, made me break down severely and often and without my control, and slowly drove me crazy. Until I came out the other side and found healing. I'm going to keep the details of what exactly affected me so badly and the way it affected me pretty vague, because I think it's important not to blur the lines of my personal life and my niche nano internet celebrity life. But I do think an important detail to mention is that I was heavily discouraged from expressing my emotions growing up, to say the least. I always tried to remain true to myself in spite of that, but when you grow up like me, it's impossible to do so in a way that doesn't feel really off in some way. Nowadays, I feel like I've finally grown into myself, and I try to encourage authenticity in my general way of life, but also gravitate towards expressing myself naturally because it just feels much easier. However, some things can't be understood without being articulated exactly in certain words. And I truly believe, finally, that my experiences have taught me a lot and that my voice is worth being heard. Hopefully my message will reach people who feel they need to hear what I have to say. This brings me on to Part 2, the purpose of my message and my basic philosophy. I think the current social climate of the world is turning and has been turning bad for a long while, and I want to help people see the world for what it truly is. Not neutral, not bad, not good, but so many things at once. Something constantly changing and constantly presenting itself to you from new perspectives. You and I are part of this world, and we choose how to adapt to the world in the way we think is best for us, but the way we adapt certainly changes the world in turn. For me, I think the best way to adapt to this world is to hold on to yourself like your life depends on it, especially when you feel like society is trying to mold you. If you successfully maintained your spirit up until now, you're incredible, but if you've lost or are losing yourself, the best way to get grip on yourself again is to revive a sense of wonder. For example, at the fact that you and everything that lives is even alive. That life is so vast and that you're a part of it. I think we turn to existentialism when those thoughts fill us with dread instead of wonder, and that might happen if you feel a deep disconnect from everything and everyone. Part 3, the disconnect. To be more specific, we feel disconnected when we stop feeling inspired or curious, or even when we stop feeling that we as an individual matter on any level. When we feel we're not part of a bigger picture, maybe because we've already lost trust in humanity. But on a deeper level, I think people are painfully, deathly afraid of judgment, more than they are willing to admit to themselves and others, and affects their willingness to even see that they've shut out their sense of wonder, or the whimsy, so to speak. And if you do that, then you turn your brain off and stop engaging with life properly. That's how you start to feel that deep disconnect. And it might be so strong that it's hard to even comprehend that without fear of judgment holding you back, you'd genuinely be better off. You're likely to make better, realer connections and have precious moments where who you're becoming is someone who you're actually aligned with. When you're secure in yourself and have the genuine desire for genuine connection and feel you have value and contributions to offer, when you let what you want to say just flow out, or when you allow yourself to be creative, you can actually really start to enjoy life. And unexpectedly, it can go a lot smoother than you'd imagine. You can finally relax. But I know it's a lot easier said than done. It makes sense to hold on to the fear of social judgment if it's all you've ever known. It may not seem worth the effort to find out how to let go and say your true thoughts. But the truth is, it's a lot easier to let go and act freely than you think. Part 4, on letting go. Previously, I cared so much about what people thought that I barely spoke to anyone at all. I told myself I'm just an introvert. I told myself that there just weren't the right people around me. I told myself there was no way I could exist freely around people. But what I told myself were all lies. One day I broke down in public and said all kinds of things that I would never usually say to all kinds of people. Close people, random acquaintances, and strangers. And that was the day I realized reputation is an illusion that you create. It's not an actual measurable thing, even if social media exists. And even if it were measurable, it has no significant value. Once I lived through that day and made it to the next day intact, I realized, wow, life goes on. I didn't pass on. I put in a lot of effort into my reputation for no reason because none of it mattered at all. And people weren't even hostile in the process, more so confused and concerned. After that event, I learned a lot more lessons too. Part 5. Some stuff I learned. You actually don't need to know who you are to exist freely. Knowing who you are comes after realizing that you don't need to perform, even if you may be perceived as a bit weird. Being weird is not automatically inferior. And if you allow yourself freedom, you'll never discover your true self, actually, because you are always discovering yourself. You don't need to entertain, or enlighten, or attract people. You don't need to isolate yourself. You don't need to feel unworthy. You're not inferior to others. You're not superior to others. And most importantly, you just are. Part 6. On just being. If you never for a second just let yourself be, without trying to be this, or that, or if you're always trying to be perfect, you'll never develop into a version of yourself that you could actually be proud of. You'll never be perfect, because you're human, but you'll also never be unlovable because of that, even more so if you maintain a sense of love. Don't deprive yourself of joy, no matter who you've been. Just try to become someone you can respect. If you can feel joy, the world is more joyful from your presence. But if you feel stuck in a life you built on seeking approval, or even one where you've just decided you want nothing to do with others, it'll be very challenging to just exit out of that setup and restart from a more authentic place. Even if you're in the boat where you've lost hope in humanity, maybe you're not exactly inauthentic, but you probably do still feel lost and unsure of how to move forwards. Either way, the anticipation of what you'll lose if you change your approach and to be more open or authentic most likely outweighs what you think you'll gain by a lot. But in reality, what you gain is everything, and what you lose was never real to begin with. There's more to unpack, and I appreciate I might have oversimplified some things, especially if you're in complex circumstances. But the bottom line is, life is life, and nothing and nobody is as isolated as it would seem. This was a pretty different sort of thing to my usual post, but I hope you gained something from it. Thanks very much for watching and listening. Hope you have a good rest of your day, or a good rest in general if it's night, and hope everyone takes care of themselves. Bye!